Hello everyone.
Hi friends.
Welcome back to our last stream of the day.
Of the Gamescom, of the Indie Arena booth, actually.
Yeah, it's the last stream of this new kind of online Gamescom Indie Booth Arena event. And we're gonna talk about Airhead now. We're here with Tobi and Reinhard and us, Consti and me, Anna. And yeah, let's get started and let's introduce Tobi.
Yeah,
Hi.
definitely. Let me just start by saying I'm so happy that you saved the best for last. Of course.
For sure.
Yeah, my name is Tobias, or Tobi. Like, it's sort of one of those Scandinavian names that sort of gets a little weird if you just translate it directly to English, but no worries. I am the level designer on Airhead, which is a game with a lot of story and a lot of lore, but no dialogue and very little text. So it's, as level designer, I'm actually doing a lot of the storytelling work with environmental storytelling and how mechanics and story fit together. So and I thought it would be interesting to take you through the game and highlight some of the things we're doing to tell the story and give you sort of a glimpse at the larger story at play here in Airhead.
Awesome.
Yes.
I'm excited.
And so that I'm gonna go with the assumption that people have some idea about what Airhead is, since we are gonna be spoiling the demo and going into a bit of detail. Next thing I want to start right now by talking about this intro screen, where I'm gonna highlight this guy right here, because this is actually like an introduction to what we're gonna find later in the game. This is actually where Head is. And we start with this, and we have the idea that as the game progresses, you're going to have different intro screens that sort of represent your progress in the game. Like, as you can see, there's a sort of these shakes going on the screen. Unfortunately, we don't have sound on the game because of the way we set up the stream, and I'm remotely playing it directly. So. But these shakes and some other shakes throughout the first level actually represent sort of the machines that we're going to meet later on moving towards Head. And something that we didn't have time to get into the demo is the fact that these rumbles, these earthquakes that are sort of happening, is actually what triggers the whole game. So you see Airhead falling down, and it's going to be a lot more clear in the finished game that is actually because he's been somewhere above, whatever that means, that's for you to discover, and he's fallen down because of these earthquakes.
Interesting.
Yes. So I want to start by going in like completely classic platformer style. We start by heading right, and immediately we reach a wall. And that's actually fully intentional. We want to establish right away that this is not a linear puzzle game. This is about exploration and sort of going against what might be expected by this kind of game.
Brilliant.
So you're going to be spending a lot of the game moving right to left, and only when you've sort of accomplished some of your goals, you're going to be moving back again to discover more of the game and open up the world a little bit. And there's actually already right here some storytelling happening. Because right here you can see a lot of debris, a lot of stuff that isn't actually natural to the cave. And there's a funny story about this, because obviously we want to establish that there's something else in the cave, or there has been something else in the cave than just the creatures that live here, and they have left behind stuff. And actually this has ended up becoming sort of like a remote trash heap they've created. And that came about because this guy right here, and that got a little tight on it. I'm just going to try to erase that. But this guy is an air tank that later on in the game, when you both have Head and have the ability to sort of make your way back here, this is actually going to allow you to go this way. So that is there sort of to establish that and sort of set that up. But when we first introduced it, that was there alone. So a lot of playtesters actually thought it was the head, or sort of spent a lot of time trying to pick it up.
Yeah.
And as sometimes happens, a lot of times happens in game design, we realized that not only was this like a thing we could fix with level design and with adding some story elements, it actually allowed us to tell a thing in the story that we hadn't thought about before. So it became this trash heap that actually introduced an idea of the backstory of the game in a way that we hadn't thought of before we ran into that problem.
Very interesting.
Yes, that's actually also why we introduced this effect, where you can try to activate or pick up the air tank, and it shows this red light and like a hissing noise to show that you can't actually interact with it. And also, it's not really that Buddy can't lift it if he wanted to, it's just that it makes this loud noise and sort of startles him, so he loses interest really quickly. But then we start moving deeper into the caves, this completely alien area, both for the player, but also for Buddy, who's just sort of dumped in from above. And now he has to sort of figure out, okay, what's he actually gonna do about this place? And obviously, it's a game where we sort of have to constantly balance between this beautiful artistic style that we have, that is sort of abstracted, but also making the world feel real and lived in. So we have like the mushrooms in the background and stuff like that. Just sort of give you a sense of this being a living world where creatures exist, but at the same time there's like a yellow backdrop that is just like these very stark like blocks of color that looks really beautiful, but you're never really gonna figure out why it's just like a yellow fog all the way out there. Now we're gonna take a look around over here. And then we have this water area right here, and we meet our first creature, this guy right here, who is sort of like he's harvesting or feeding from this like uniquely shaped thing that he pulled out from the wedge right here. And not only does this serve like a puzzle purpose, like you're gonna have to figure out, okay, how can we manipulate this guy to help us by using these things? But it also actually ties into an area later in the game where we figure out where these seeds come from and how the ecosystem sort of fits around that. And that's the kind of thing that we've done a lot of thinking about, a lot of setting up is how does this world fit together, and how can we create a realistic ecosystem that Buddy can sort of fall into and disrupt and change, both maybe for the better, but also in some instances for the worse, because he might be a little too driven to save Head when we get that far. So here we're going like, and we already see that sort of that duality right here, because we're like almost squishing the poor thing and actually taking away a source of food in order to get it to help us. But then again, like it was probably gonna get to that bigger seed at some point. Yes. And that was actually also, this is another example where the story and sort of the gameplay changed each other, because originally you went directly up here to move the rock. This whole part down here never actually existed, but we realized that players didn't actually know what they were doing because they never saw this seed right there. So it was, instead of a puzzle, it was just sort of trial and error and just moving through the level. So we wanted to give the player the sense of sort of exploring and actually seeing the solution to the puzzle. And this is our design philosophy to help you get through the puzzles, is to sort of show them to you and show you where you need to go before the puzzle ends. And in some cases that has been easy, and in other cases like this, we've had to sort of redesign the game to some extent to really to help players get that sense of knowing what's happening. Okay. And down here, we are gonna meet another creature who we sort of startle a little. He runs into the wall.
So cute.
Yeah, they're great. They're gonna get a lot more annoying later, but this is sort of the first glimpse of the other sort of native species to this world that we're gonna have a lot of interactions with throughout the game. And we actually see the other one right here, sort of blocking our paths. Already we see these creatures sort of exist both to stop you and to hamper your progression, but also as a tool for you to use if you can figure out how they tick. So here we go, and here's the rest of the family. We have someone trying to reach the lava that is lying down here, and sort of their exact bond and how their ecosystem works. We're not going to be super explicit, but you are going to be able to tell a lot from how you interact with them and how you solve some later puzzles where they are a big part. So of course we can pick it up, and then he sort of realizes, okay, something's happening. I gotta interact. And at this point, they still haven't sort of had all of their emotions aren't as clearly shown the way we want to, because he's supposed to be scared when we're close to him, like that, right? He reacts, and if you have the lava out in the water where he obviously can't go because he'll fall over, he should be standing next to it and sort of reaching for it, still trying to get it, like we saw him do when he was standing still before. So there's still things left to do, but already you can see that they're creatures with an agenda and with wants and needs of their own that you need to sort of unlock and figure out for yourself as the game progresses. And now that we come up here, they're happy and they have their lava, so they're gonna leave, and you can get past and push the rock down where you want to. Yes. And then we have sort of a little bit of running towards the end. And here we come to a place that is sort of like the first, sort of like the introduction, right? Where you run right and you're denied. And this is actually a place similar to that, because when you run down here, it's just going to be a dark area where you can't really do anything yet. But obviously darkness is not going to be a huge problem for you throughout the whole game, and there is going to be some secrets down there in the dark that you're going to be able to unlock later on when you have the right tool set. Yeah, and that's a big part of the game, is that we're using Metroidvania sort of gating mechanics. You're going to collect abilities that sort of make you better and better and open up new parts of the whole sort of cave system and the world outside that you'll visit later in the game. And the more of these abilities you find, the more areas you'll be able to explore and get rewarded for sort of going through. And here again we have another one of these special air tanks that's going to be important after we've gotten ahead, but for now they're just sort of set dressing and setting up this idea that somebody has placed these air tanks here for some reason, and that's something you're going to have to sort of understand later on. Yes, and I'm just going to stop it again. Here you see the first of the sort of the active opponents in the game, so to speak. These machines that sort of come in and going after Head's air source, as we call it, for some reason. Just.
I see.
Yes. And then that's sort of the digger that comes first, opens the path, and they suddenly find this open area, and you have like the airhead right here, and that you're sort of manipulating. And this is the first thing that was ever created in the game, and it has been through so many iterations because we want to get it just right. We want you to understand sort of about the importance of the two halves of Head and see how they're sort of connected and want to stay connected, because that's going to be a big driving force for the game, is getting back the air source. It's going to be ready here too.
That looked kind of gross.
There we go. So this is, I don't want to call him the big bad, but he's sort of like the first one that really gets in your way, right? And I just wanted, while he's sort of in frame, I wanted to highlight that he has these organic shapes running along his overside, and he has a different color scheme than a lot of the other things you're gonna meet, and that's actually very deliberate. Like, there's the story of sort of the connection between Buddy and Head, and them, like Buddy trying to save Head, is meant to be very like easily understood and the thing that drives you. But if you take the time to look at the details and really try to immerse yourself in the world, you're going to realize that everything has a meaning and everything has a story that's sort of interconnected. So this sort of design of the machine is different from the other machines we're going to see, the debris we're going to find. I'll highlight some of that later on. And that's very deliberate. Like, there's two types of machine in this world, and the reason for that is something that is like central to the background of the story. Yes, you would really say that. I don't want to call it like a post-apocalyptic world we're investigating, but it is a world where something has come and gone, and the story of what that thing or that people was doing here, and why they left, and whatever has come after, is really like at the heart of the environmental storytelling and the big picture in the world. And obviously Head can interface with the air tanks. His air source, or its air source, is sought after by the machines, and he's going to be able to interact with a lot more stuff than just the air tanks. So he really fits into this story somehow. But obviously, like, he can't tell you what's going on, so that's something you as player have to figure out for yourself. Here we go. And this is actually also a very new sort of addition. This first ascent, where you sort of get the idea, because obviously you're going to be running around with Head, and he's going to run out of air. If you leave him behind, he's going to like slowly deflate. So constantly.
The poor thing.
I'll save him. So yeah, I don't want to be too cruel, but like, he's a burden, right? Both figuratively and literally. But he also gives you these amazing abilities like hovering and a lot of other stuff that you'll sort of. These are the special abilities that you will unlock throughout the game. So it's sort of like bittersweet and give and take, like companionship and being responsible for each other is in real life. And that's like the director and creator of Airhead, Andreas. He's been really focused on that aspect of the story for all the time that it has existed. Like, that has been a really big draw of this tale of these two unlikely heroes working together. Again, we actually have another example of that right here, Ryan, because when you're carrying Head, you can't really use your hands that well. So you sort of have to put Head behind and run off and get back before, I can't push the stone and actually save him, so I'm just gonna, there we go. So sometimes you're forced to leave him behind in order to save him, and that's actually also a big part of the puzzle design. Often is, how can I do it not quickly but efficiently, so that I don't have to run back and forth to the air tanks too much, and and I don't actually leave Head behind until he's gone. Okay, and here's actually the other machines that I wanted to talk about. So this is more of the debris, like the sense that something it's been left behind to sort of fall apart.
Yeah.
And here we can see an elevator that's sort of been caught in an avalanche, right? And this is like, it's a completely different color scheme. It's a lot more orange, sort of half rusted, and a lot more sort of dilapidated and square right angles, right? So there is definitely, like, whoever designed this is not the same person that designed the robot we met before. And let's see if I can get it. Here we go. Oh, and this is actually a funny thing. I'm gonna draw something and then leave it on screen for a second, because we have this guy right here. And then gonna jump down. Whoop. Let's see if I can get it, because back before that existed, for this this area and that ascent that I just showed, like we just went up, and that stone was actually right here.
Oh, okay.
So we had this idea that this stone teaches you a lot of mechanics about the game. So you pushed it out of the way when you arrived, and then when you came back, you actually had to interact with it and use it. Sort of realize that the game has changed from the first time you saw this specific area until now. So obviously we kept that because it's an important mechanical, like, teaching tool, but we just scooched it up a little. And unless you're really interested in game design and stuff like this, like at this stream, you'd never know it. You'd just think, oh, there's a stone, let's push it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So get back into the game. We're just gonna move this stone back.
It looks like a shoe.
Yeah, it actually does. We always called it the wedge because of the shape, and it's it's in between two. But I can definitely see, like, it has some shoe-like qualities, especially in this sort of low poly style we have. That could definitely be a shoe sort of blown up too. Oh, I accidentally pushed the reset button. My bad.
Yeah, don't worry.
Oh, and here you might be able to sort of suss this out if you're clever. But this right here, actually, the sort of the elevator originally, it came down here in this hole. And I'm not gonna say that it's definitely gonna fall down here again at some point, but it definitely is, and you will be able to use it. That's actually something I could have mentioned back when we saw the robot, right? You sort of had this hole that opened, and you had this large shaft where the light came down. You can't get in there right now, but later on you will be able to get in through that hole and actually follow the robots directly. And you'll even be able to sort of explore the area above. So that's part of this Metroidvania design philosophy we have, that everything's interconnected. And there's very few places in the game that you're only going to visit once. Like, most of them you're going to be able to visit 2 or more times.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially if you want to find all the secrets, right? In the game. And that's also like I said, right? We're moving right only because we couldn't move further left. So we have to backtrack and figure out where to go from here. And then we actually have these creatures again, sort of living their own lives. They have a place they're heading towards, and they've sort of been behind the scenes and moving up there, and suddenly they've changed the area a little bit. And here we have sort of like an important teaching moment for the player, because obviously there is a fail state where you reset the game, you go back to your last air tank, but it's not really like a punishment or a death state. It's more about, well, now you haven't been able to save Head, and that's like the primary concern, because Buddy could probably escape any given situation, but now that they're tied together, the game is actually it's about saving head, right? So you can't just have him run out of air without losing or sort of having to go again, do better. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Classic mistake. Luckily I can do it a lot faster if I'm focusing at just a little bit.
Jan just asked us if you've seen Yona speedrun and if you've liked it.
I got the Yona, when he first told us about the idea of making a speed run, right? I was sort of like, I can definitely do it faster than that. Because I've been playtesting these levels forever, right? Ever since they existed. But then I saw it, and I saw some trial runs he did, and sort of the stuff like, well, if you jump and then release the head, there's no animation, so you can technically do it faster and stuff like that. And then I realized I don't stand a chance, man.
All right.
That's a whole different approach to playing games than what I'm used to. Like always thinking about story and sort of getting immersed in the character. And obviously, both types have a huge place in any game, and in Airhead too. Especially, I'm gonna get really interested to see how fast people can 100% the game, get all of the extra bonus stuff that you can find if you actually go through the entire game and find all of the secrets.
You know that the QA guys are unforgiven. They're always looking for breaking your game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, we rely on it, right? If nobody was destroying them, then the players would do it, and we'd be in real trouble when the game comes out.
It's just doing you a favor.
Sometimes it's a little hard. Sometimes it
doesn't feel like a favor.
That still not be working? I worked on that yesterday. No. But in the end, it's worth it, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Here we actually have, this is maybe one of the big sort of difficult sort of teaching moments, and also why we sort of introduced the map during development, right? Is the idea that you need to come back here and find that one specific air tank that gives you a different ability before you even realize that air tank actually is special. So we sort of have these areas that show, okay, you're going to be able to get in here at some point, but how and when, well, that's up to you to find out, right? Here we go. I always go for the dark area first. That's sort of my preferred way of doing it. And then we actually meet this little guy right here. Call them glow bees. And obviously he follows you around. He's very interested in what you're doing. And actually you're going to see them in the background or sort of at different times throughout the game. And sort of it's a good idea to keep an eye on them, because there's something going on there. I don't want to spoil it, but they're more than they seem. And actually another part of, I talked about how it's Head that's part of this world, and him that's sort of connected to everything, right? Because if we leave Head, actually Head, it's following. It doesn't care about Buddy. That's obviously a clue for how is everything connected and what's actually going on. Also, I mentioned how you are going to be able to interface with sort of machines. Here you have a machine, but Head doesn't have the necessary equipment to actually use it for anything yet. And that's again, that is one of the sort of the main ways that you're upgrading Head, is making it better and better at interfacing with the technology. The other big thing is that you will learn to use the air that's actually inside Head to improve your mobility, give you new abilities that sort of depend on blowing out air or pushing air and stuff like that. And obviously this air tank just sort of ends up in a dead end. You need to do two things to get through here. One of them is open up this air tank. The other one is over here. And that's also something that we've strived to do with the level design and world design in general, is there's always more than one thing you could be doing and should be doing. So you can go in whatever direction and get something interesting or useful out of it. Okay, and here we see our friends again. We have like the active one, and then we have the secondary one, and so that the lava is also up there. If you can't quite see him, he's sort of hidden behind the shelf. And then we come to another sort of point where we see Head's importance to this world. Because just like they were interested in getting their hands on the lava, they actually also want Head. Yes, here we go. And suddenly the lava grows up and up the air inside Head, right? So, and this is just one example of how we've thought of everything as an ecosystem, right? These creatures depend on whatever it is Head is, and obviously as soon as they see a Head, they're gonna try to get their hands on it. So now you have to keep it away from them, and then think about, okay, what is it? What is their goal? What do they want? And how can I use that to my advantage? Here we go. So we're just gonna run through some puzzles here that sort of reinforce some of the mechanics that we've already taught you. The things like you can't use your hands if you're carrying Head, and sometimes you need to leave Head behind, right, in order to do what needs to be done.
Right now, looking at you playing the game, it looks so easy, but trust me, it isn't. It isn't. If you don't know it, it's like really tough.
Yeah, it is. I mean, at its core, it's a puzzle platformer, right? You need to solve puzzles, and you need to not fail.
Yeah, the first time I played it, it took me a while.
Yeah,
and we don't expect anyone to solve the puzzles in there. Like in the first try, it's always a matter of sort of figuring it out, looking for clues as to where you're actually going and what's going on.
Yeah.
And here we have like the idea again, right? You can't get up there on your own, but you can actually, can trick this guy into helping you. If you sort of leave the Head and make him think he's safe and alone, and then when he saw me and I was sort of getting too close, and here we go. He's scared of me, so he's sort of frozen solid. And now when I push him away, he sort of stands there and looks scared. I can get past him. And we have the rest of the family right up here, sort of hidden behind the rocks or between the rocks. And obviously, the fail state is the same. So if you leave Head here, you get the animation again, sort of reinforcing. Or if you got past the first puzzle without seeing what the fail state was, then you realize, okay, that's actually their goal if you fail here, or one of the other places where we call them air hunters. It's not an official like in-world name, but we have names for all of the creatures. Makes it a little easier to talk about them in our daily work, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And here we actually see them sort of following you from scene to scene, trying to get at you. And here we have another like problem for Body and Head, because you can't grab the edge while you're carrying Head, but if you drop it, then you can move on. And then as Head sort of runs out of air, it falls to the bottom. Hopefully I can, yes, I just made it. And here we go again. And this is actually like the last thing you need to learn about the air hunters is something that you learn here. I just need to see if I can get the timing right. There we go. They prioritize the, oh no.
Yeah.
It falls down, you're under a little bit of time pressure. But they
Yes,
definitely they prioritize the lava above the Head. So if you take the lava, they it spooks them a little, and they're suddenly gonna go for that a lot.
Oh no.
Yes. Like I said, I don't hold a candle to Jonas.
That's the point. 5 times when we had this with Andreas, the live stream, like okay.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing, and obviously that's also part of it, right? Helping the player sort of think in a different way, but also realizing, okay, what is it I need to solve the puzzle, and how do I sort of grow my skills from there. And actually we ended up introducing these, and that's sort of like a trick of the trade, just to go behind the scenes a little bit, right? Because to begin with, this was just like an expansive blue, and it was really hard to tell where the air hunter actually was. Like, from Mario games, you can always see a shadow, so you always know where you will land if you fall out of the sky right now, right? We can't really do that because of the way the lighting is set up, and we don't want to compromise that part of sort of the visuals. So we sort of set up some helping geometry. So then at least you know, okay, after you've tried it once, if he's here, well, that's too close, then I need to have him maybe here or here.
Yeah.
So, and for some people that'll mean a game with a lot of trial and error, and for others it'll mean a game where they spend some time just standing around and figuring stuff out, right? That's also why we sort of introduced the idea that like head is always running out of air, except when you're standing still and just focusing on holding in that air. So you can actually stop playing and look at your surroundings and try to figure out, okay, where am I going from here? What am I trying to accomplish?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because back in the day, as you might say, actually, this is a lot more tricky than I thought. There we go. Back in the day, you always lost air. There wasn't that sort of.
So you changed it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I think that's a good design choice because it takes away the time pressure.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly.
Time pressure can be quite frustrating, I think, in the long
otherwise
run.
it would be just pure anxiety because you'd have to get to the next air.
Yeah, air tanks.
You wouldn't have time to think,
Yeah.
but the way it's set up right now, it still serves the same purpose, right? So yeah, that's cool.
Exactly, and yeah, that's definitely the thought behind it, right? We want you to always have to think about air, but never have to be stressed out about air.
Yeah.
That's also like one of the things we're working on, sort of getting across to the player right now. One of the sort of the things we're trying to build into the game actively is teaching them that if you feel like you're running out of time, then you're doing something wrong. Like if you know how to solve the puzzle correctly, then you won't feel like you are about to die every time you get to a new area. And obviously speedrunners are gonna find ways to sort of get around that, and that's fine, but we don't want people to feel like their success comes at the expense of being super stressed and frustrated, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've noticed sort of the special thing about this area yet. That's actually, like I mentioned, this little guy right here.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's actually here, and this sort of ties that together with the earlier area, but also with the robots earlier. There's something going on. The question is what? And obviously that's up to the player to figure out. Where were we? Here. Okay. And then this is sort of like the culmination of all the stuff you've learned about these guys, right? They want the head, they want to use it with the lava, and they can sort of interface. And you sort of have to make the logical leap, which I, again, like, it's one of the puzzles I make look super easy, right? Because I know that you can actually use the lava on the air tank, sort of like that logical leap that if one thing fits and that fits together. Yeah. And that's sort of like the kind of things that hopefully if Airhead really is a game for you, when you figure out those sorts of connections, then that is like a wow moment and a great feeling, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely what we're striving for.
Right. But until the great feeling, it took me 10 or 15 minutes until I realized, use the lava for it.
Yeah. And that's definitely part of it, right? Like sometimes you're gonna have to think out of the box a little bit and And we're definitely going to be implementing a sort of a hint system if you're more interested in the story, or if a specific part of the game sort of really frustrates you.
Yeah.
Like I remember another great puzzle game, Witness, where there's a large section of puzzles that are about sound.
Yeah.
And I love music and stuff like that, but I'm totally tone deaf. So figuring out those puzzles, I couldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
So that entire section, I just cheated and looked stuff up. And I think if you're interested in the art or the story, and a game has implemented like a hint system or help to get you through those areas that just don't interest you, that's sort of like the best way of doing it. Yeah, and here we see sort of a machine lined up. This one actually is in much more working order than the other one we saw. So we have like these what are you calling them, switches, that are gonna be present throughout the game. That sort of this is a place where Head can interface with these machines. But of course, right now, and in this demo, you won't be able to get the upgrade that actually lets you drive it. So, and here I'm going to show you something that I don't think anyone has actually seen on the stream yet, because it's sort of superfluous for people who are speedrunning, and I'm not sure if Andreas showed it in sort of...
No,
I've never seen it.
Yes.
No, we didn't. Yeah.
So this is actually a secret area.
Oh.
It's totally optional, and that also means that the puzzle is a little more difficult, because like the obvious thing to do is just run around here. Then you sort of come to an area where you are definitely gonna run out of air before you can get the stone into place. Yeah. And now I'm actually a little sad that we couldn't get sound going through our streaming setup, because our sound designer, he's created this amazing death sound when Airhead runs out of air. There's actually an array of different sounds that sort of is the sound of its last breath before the game sort of ends, which really sells the idea of its head, that sort of it's him that's fading out when you die, and it's such an amazing addition. I really, when he presented that to us and we heard it in the game, it was just perfect.
Well, the good thing is everybody can play this demo right now. It is free to play on Steam right now, so go check it out. Go check it out if you're interested.
But
I agree, the sound is really fitting to this.
Yes.
And there's actually also another fun sound thing, right? Right now I can actually hear the Globee, because it is sort of just hidden out of view up here. So I can actually hear it. So if you somehow stumble into this area before something else, you actually get a great little like preview of that, and you can sort of think, wait, what is that sound? And so those kind of things are going to be present throughout the game, where you can sometimes sense something before you actually reach it, right? Okay, I'm just gonna solve this puzzle, and this is again.
Jan just asked. Sorry to interrupt you. So Jan just asked if you ever considered part-time teaching game design at a university.
Well, I do have a background at the university. I studied game design, and I enjoy talking about it, like theoretically and stuff like that. But if you work in that kind of environment, you also have to deal with students and research and stuff.
Understandable.
It's not really my strong suit. I prefer actually building the things.
Yeah,
but
you're explaining really well.
Yeah. Very insightful. Awesome.
That's a big part of my job, right? I'm not the big idea guy at the company. That's definitely Andreas, and he has the sort of the artistic, let's say. But I sort of make sure that everything fit together, and that the systems work and make sense, and have all of these sort of like design thoughts that sometimes we use and sometimes we scrap them because they're not that fun, even though in theory they should be. That's part of game design, figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
It's a team
So
effort.
you actually have to fix the ideas of Andreas.
Sometimes. And sometimes I build a level with a puzzle in it, and he just looks at it and he says, "That's not going to be fun." And then he explains why, and I'm totally like, "You're right." I was sort of like in my own head or something like that, right?
Awesome.
And every part of Octato is like that, right? Our programmers always come up with great ideas, not only how to solve the technical stuff, but also gameplay things. Our sound designer, he built something right out of the blue that just blows us away, everything. And that's the strength of these small indie teams, right? That we're all in it together and sort of experimenting. Okay, and here's sort of like one of the last things I'll highlight before the end of the demo, right? Is actually these things right here. So we sort of have this little black thing, and then we have these red sort of shells. And they're actually present down in the trash heap. There's something like this, and you're going to see them later on as well. And then there's this sort of black, shrunken little thing. Sort of. And then when you run down, you actually pick it up and you just pop it onto the head, right? So this is again like a mystery, what exactly is going on. Because obviously, like what is this thing that sort of has this ability to stick to head, and actually, if you look down here, it increases your overall air supply. And that's one of two sort of optional collectibles. Like we have the big abilities that sort of unlock the game, and then we have these smaller things that make life a little easier, but where you have to work a little harder to actually get them, right? But with everything else in Airhead, there's a story behind that. There's a reason why they look like this, why they are connected with these red shells, and why Head is actually able to interface with them. And some of it is going to be clear by the end, and some of it we've deliberately left like mysterious, where you have to really dig into the lore and look at all these tiny clues that I'm sort of sitting here with my big red marker highlighting to actually realize. And obviously, I feel confident in sharing all of this stuff with you and with the viewers, because I know that it's just like the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah.
So many mysteries and fantastic puzzles and creatures to find in this game that I can totally like spoil the whole first chapter of the demo here, and there's still tons left to discover. And as you can see right now, I don't know if you noticed that. I'll just do it again because it's the only place we can show it. Now that you actually have the air, because your maximum amount of air is bigger, instead of only just being able to reach here and climbing up, actually keep going all the way up here where the rock was before.
All right.
So not only do the ears, as we call them, because they sort of look like ears on his head, not only do they change your air, but they also have like a subtle ability change to head, right? And it's going to be like that with all of the abilities. Like some of them might not be as overt as it is in the demo, but we're going to be playing around with that. And here, like again, right, there's always something. You can see the shell.
Yeah.
Mentioned is here, and this area right here is actually not connected to the caves directly. It's a lot later in the game, a lot further left. But we wanted to showcase like an environment that sort of gives you a sense of the scale of Airhead and the different areas, right? You can also see it if you look at our trailer, which is available on Steam right next to our demo, which you should definitely try.
Definitely.
Because like you can see this and the outside and all of the other stuff that you'll be able to experience. And these guys, and this guy are not just set dressing. Like that. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and that takes us like I don't think there's any more I can say about this demo at this point. Really.
That's fair.
Oh, you can't.
Oh, and here, no, actually, there is one last thing, right? A great piece of advice to everyone.
Yeah.
Definitely wishlist now.
definitely wishlist the game and try the demo for sure.
That was so interesting and mind blown.
Very,
about all those
very
details.
insightful stream. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Yeah, it's been great talking to you guys, and I love talking about this stuff, right? There's a reason why I'm a game designer.
For sure.
And just being able to share these kinds of thoughts. We also try to do, like, when we tweet from our Twitter account, or sometimes we post some small, like, dev stuff. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, there's definitely, like, a discussion to be had that I love having with players and other designers. I really think, like, both playing games, but also dissecting them and figuring out how they tick and all that great stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I'm taking care of this project since April, and that was really an awesome insight in many details that we both never found the time to talk about this. So that's actually we should spend more time, and because usually I'm not the quiet guy, but like Jacob on your end, and say hello.
So you seem to be occupied with other stuff when you discuss the business and all that things.
Here, just in your presentation, I was just like watching, like, okay, yes, now I got it. That's pretty interesting. Awesome, awesome presentation.
Very good, very awesome. Yeah,
and that's also like we definitely hope that players will take this as an inspiration to really look at the game both now and when it comes out, and having the confidence to say, okay, there's probably a red thread and something more behind this if I take the time to really think about it. And obviously we have some things set in stone, but there's also a lot of mysteries that we hope the players will sort of help us shape and come up with answers to. That's probably a lot more clever than what we can come up with. So
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. It's amazing. Yeah. Once you put a game out there, it's amazing what people will come up with. Creativity knows no bounds. It's great.
Definitely,
really awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. It's been great.
If anybody has any more questions, you can find Tobi and all of the other developers on our Discord. Feel free to hop on there and ask them about their games, ask them about anything you would like to know. I'll post the link right here. Wow. What a way to end Indie Arena booth 2020.
It's been great. And it's been great seeing all of these fantastic games, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Greetings to everybody at Octato, and have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, you too.
And Reinhard, you too, obviously. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.
Yes.
Yeah. Do.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Guys. Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
That was a lot of info.
That was great. Awesome. Awesome. Hey, again, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. Stop by our booth, stop by Steam, stop by our Discord, and everybody have a wonderful weekend.
Check out all our demos.
Check out all the demos.
Yeah.
Talk to the devs, talk to us, and we will see you soon.
Very soon.
Thank you so much for being with us, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Yeah.
See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.